Hello and welcome. And we have been absolutely bombarded with questions. I never in my wildest dreams expected this to be such a huge discussion point. Prior to getting started, I have two announcements. First and foremost, as a matter of business, the Pro Line balls. I've been talking to a lot of college coaches. In fact, I must have sent out close to 80 messages today, and I'm going to get to that tonight. And in the midst of many of my discussions, we are here in the Northeast and many other parts of the country. Inclement weather has forced a lot of teams inside for obvious reasons. A lot of teams, both baseball and softball, using the Pro Line ball. Want to encourage you to visit the website, prolineballs.com, and utilize Blue Book as your discount code, Blue Book, and that will unlock a 15% discount for Pro Line baseballs. I got some messages last week. I want to say thank you to Jackie and Mark. I will withhold their last name from West Virginia. They created this beautiful piece of artwork here in the back that I am extremely grateful for. And I want to say to all those that sent well wishes for Tyler, well, at least for this guy, my prayers have been answered because Tyler has signed back with the Cubs, and he is in Iowa in AAA, and he will probably pitch tomorrow for those minor league aficionados. I want to get started here. This is a live Q&A. We do this every Tuesday, by and large, throughout the season, in the off season. So these work with your questions. I want to get right to 2 points. I do not want to jump the shark. I like to, as the boys will say to me, stay in my lane. My lane is college athletics, particularly baseball and softball. And I do not want to enter into the world of major media and discuss politics. I have no skin in that game, nor do I wish to discuss that. I am simply talking about an executive order. We've heard it discussed at length with regard to college game day, during the basketball championship last evening. I continue to get a lot of questions. And the second piece to that is I want to emphasize something. This is not to create fear. I get a lot of negative, and right, I get it. It comes with the territory, but I am not selling, quote unquote, hype. I am not trying to create fear. I don't think I've ever gone down that road, nor will I ever go down that road. This is more to discuss the topics at hand and try to create some information that allows you as parents and families and athletes, some common basic understanding. And with that, I want to just say 98% of the audience that I talk with, the audience that I work with, I do work with families. I have been working with families for over 38 years. This is not going to be applicable. These topics that we're discussing about two particular points. Eligibility is really an NCAA-wide Division 1, 2, and 3. NCAA. The things that we're talking about this evening are going to include NCAA. I will get to the JUCO, and we will touch on NAIA. But for the vast majority of NCAA athletes, Divisions 1, 2, and 3, you're not going to be dealing with a lot of name, image, and likeness. You have the ability to do that as an NCAA athlete. But the numbers that we may be discussing, particularly at the higher levels of Division 1, they may not be applicable to everyone. So I don't want people to get bogged down. The next component to that is when we start to talk about the portal, I always try to encourage families, and we're going to get to that tonight, to find fit first. Fit is paramount. And if we find the right fit and we're not chasing the jerseys or the hype and hysteria for validation for profiles and things like that, if we're seeking the right fit, then a lot of this probably will not come into play. But let's kind of go down the line. And if you have a question at any point, I strongly encourage you. I will put the spectacles on and I will bring them up to you. Hello, Keith. Welcome aboard. I saw Trace had a great day today, and I have put that out there, and I am so happy for you and Trace. The first thing I want to kind of bring up here is, when we start to talk about this particular situation that is occurring, right here, transfer portal. If we're talking about NCAA Division I, athletes, let's just look at that just to kind of understand. Football has approximately 10,000 portal athletes. Basketball has 1,500. To put this into perspective, there's about 5,000 total NCAA college basketball players. And if we, start to look at football, maybe there's a little over 35,000 in that ballpark. So, this whole, dialogue over the transfer rule that is in the executive order. One, it will definitely, according to the coaches poll, be challenged in court. And I don't see this as something that will be adopted immediately. All of this is due to go into effect on August 1st. I don't think the chaos with regard to the portal is ever really going to truly stop, because bear in mind, the portal has been around for decades. And it comes in and out with different kind of, dates and deadlines. And, I think it will be very hard for a court of law to look at college and say you can only transfer once. That's my opinion. But my point of bringing up this first slide is for you to understand, as parents, you do not want to enter into this situation where you're anticipating being a part of the portal. Your goal should be to find the right fit for your student athlete right out of the gate. And the fit needs to be the priority. You don't want to be bouncing in and out. We've discussed ad nauseum with regard to academics and the transcripts and the hours and the credits and all of that. Just these numbers they look mind-boggling, but if you stop and think about that, for the most part, what that really means is a lot of athletes are getting bad advice. And so that is my first point to parents. And what do I mean by bad advice? There are a lot of predatorial people. I don't want to specifically say what industry they're involved in. It doesn't really matter. But when you have adults that are trying to push student athletes into the portal in hopes of a name, image, and likeness deal, and then there is a commission or a percentage, and in some cases, I've seen that as high as 20 to 25%. Sometimes it's a 10 to 15%. Now, year after year, there are people within an industry that can look at that as a business model. And if you represent enough athletes and they go through the portal and they get a small amount over there, a medium amount over there, a big chunk over there, while the intent may be intriguing initially, I can guarantee you that a majority, and those numbers fluctuate, a majority of athletes end up not finding gold at the end of the rainbow and the grass is not always greener. In fact, most end up as what I would call fallbacks, and they end up moving to a level that will allow them opportunity to play. So there's really not as much name, image, and likeness money or collective money. Again, within all of these conferences at the Division I level, where collectives are the majority, there are collectives at Division II, there are collectives beginning in Division III, but for the vast majority of the bigger money, that's Division I athletics, and it's really a percentage of the 300 approximate Division I baseball teams. And so, each conference, SEC, everybody has got 34 full scholarships. Everyone plays in a collective pool. Some collectives are bigger than other. And also the schools are paying out to each individual athlete. But that is a conference by conference. The Big Ten has some schools that are full 34 full scholarships, i.e. Illinois. And then there's others such as Iowa that are 11.7. And Iowa can, in some regard, be considered one of the stronger teams in the Big Ten. USC does not have 34 full scholarships. So it's an uneven playing field. The same can be said at the ACC, UVA, Duke. They do not have 34 full scholarships. There are other schools within the ACC that do. So I really want that to be something that you're aware of. Next, what I want parents to understand is, there are certain programs that are going to really be aggressive early in the process. And so what I really want you to understand is that if I were to, I'll bring this up just to show you. Let me see here. If I were to show you this is active in the portal right now today. Now, what jumps out at you? Baseball. Now, let's look at that number with regard to baseball. So there's 17% of Division I football players are in the portal. 18 to 20% of Division I basketball players are in the portal. 30%. Now, the accurate number for Division I baseball is approximately 11,500 student athletes. And so if I take 30% of that number, it gets a little crazy. And so what you really need to begin to understand is when you see these numbers, don't think everything is hunky-dory for every one of these athletes and the families that are in the portal, because that's simply not the case. What is the case is that there are athletes that are trying to, obviously navigate the system. And in that situation, what they're really trying to do is A, find playing time, and B, find money. So not a lot of that will happen. But here's the biggest, kind of question that I really get asked, and that is JUCO. And I want to spend some time on this because I get so many questions, and I want parents to hear this directly. If you go to JUCO and you redshirt, according to this new executive order, and I really believe this is the meat of the executive order. So if we want to tune out the name, image, and likeness, and you want to tune out the portal, and I'm going to get to a question where I asked the college coaches here in a second. But the crux of the executive order is this. It's 5 years of eligibility over the course of 5 years. In the minute you enter college, and this is for JUCO as well as NCAA. So please, if somebody is telling you that you can go to JUCO and you can redshirt your freshman year and then play the next 2 years, well, you've given up 3 years of your eligibility and you will only retain 2. 5 years of eligibility over 5 years. If you're hurt 2 of the years, that's 2 of your years. What they're trying to do here is try to keep some semblance of sanity with not having 25 or 26-year-old athletes. And so what they're trying to say is if you enter school and you're 19, turning 20, you're going to play till you're 24. And whether you redshirt, you transfer, it's 5 years to play 5 seasons. So you really want to think twice and give pause. A lot of parents go to JUCO and they think, okay, I'll go there, I'll play for 2 years. And then you get there and you find out they have a developmental team and they want you to redshirt, and then you become a redshirt freshman. Well, in that case, you're down 2 years. As a redshirt freshman, you're down 2 years. So you really want to ask questions as families with regard to JUCO. And when I put out here lock in early, I'm not talking about actually committing. What I'm saying is you want to have an understanding when you're going through these questions with college coaches, whether they're at camps or they're out watching you after August 1st as a 28 or you're a 27, and you start to talk to college coaches. You want to ask about this 5-year rule. Like, how is this going to work for your program? What are my options if I go to JUCO? Like, this is something that really you want to have, that you want to really be discussing. You do not want in any way, shape, or form to go to a JUCO, redshirt your freshman year, play for 2, you've given up 3, now you only have 2. Well, I thought the JUCO years didn't count. They absolutely, unequivocally count. There's so many people that are getting bad information. They're getting bad information. And what I want you to understand is today I sent out 76 text messages to college coaches. And, one of the things that I wanted to ask the coaches was give me your feedback on as far as what do you think is going to be the most pressing issue as a college program? Like, what do you foresee out of this executive order? What do you see being, a big, big deal? Look at this. 76 coaches were asked about the executive order. What was the biggest piece in your mind that the executive order brings into your program? And it was the 5 years of eligibility plus 1 transfer. Now, just look at these numbers. I know I have basketballs out there. I didn't have the baseballs. That is my faux pas. But, 15 were concerned with the name, image, and likeness, or not only the crackdown, but the guidance and the guidelines. Revenue sharing, federal funding, those were the 4 topics. But you can see every single college coach, and I love when I get this, by the way, and I'm not going to, put a lot of it out there, but, I can scroll, and these are all college coaches. And again, respecting their privacy, but I really want to just read one of these to you. And this, I'm not going to tell you the coach's name, but I'm going to read this to parents. And I just want you to see that it's a long, long response. I will block this out. I will simply put this there and simply show you a long response. Walter, I'll give you an answer, but I'm not going to give you a comfortable one. Not because it's the cleanest idea, but because it strikes at the engine that currently driving the behavior. I haven't gotten through all of the executive order because I'm juggling a lot of balls in season right now. But let me answer it simply this way. Name, image, and likeness is acquisition money. Now, that's well stated. And as long as that system stays unchecked, everything else you listed gets distorted, meaning the eligibility, the transfer, the federal, everything else is distorted. The name, image, and likeness creates an uneven playing field by massive amounts. Eligibility rules don't matter if movement is financially driven. Revenue sharing becomes secondary if outside money outweighs it. Outside money being booster clubs and the availability of beyond the institutional monies that are through the revenue sharing program. Revenue sharing becomes secondary if outside money outweighs it. Federal enforcement, no, that's a downstream lever that's not going to gain roots. If you actually tighten or redefine the collective pay for play space, you just don't change budgets, you change decision making. Why does a player leave? Why would a player stay? Who a coach recruits? What a locker room values? The cultural impact, not just the policy impact. If this executive order actually gets enforced, a lot of programs are going to have to look in the mirror and ask, do we have something real to sell? Or have we just been renting talent? That's a critical point. I want to reread that sentence for parents. The culture impact, not just the policy impact. If the executive order actually gets enforced, a lot of programs are going to have to look in the mirror and ask, do we have something real to sell? Does our university present value, offer value for the student athlete? Not just the athletic. I'm talking about all the other ancillary components that used to be a massive part of college. Or are we just renting talent year by year? Because when the financial edge shrinks, development environment and standards get exposed quickly. That's where programs will either stabilize or get real uncomfortable. Now, let's just think about that for a second. We have to begin to understand that the majority of athletes are not going to be dealing with massive amounts of money. We have to begin to look at, okay, what is the college experience about for my student athlete? And, when I talk to a lot of the high level academic schools, which is my space, that's really the space that I cultivate and work within. This is not applicable to them because so many student athletes are seeking that high level education, whether it's the military academies, the Ivy League, the Patriot League, the NESCAT schools, the Stanfords, the Dukes, the Wake Forests. There is an academic trade off. And, those athletes are really seeking the value of the college academic, athletic, culture, campus environment as a collective whole. So my point is, at some point there will be structure. Is it going to be strictly enforced through this executive order? The vast majority do not think so, not in its entirety. So you don't have to panic. You don't have to panic. And so that's really what I want parents to take away from this. I want parents to really begin to understand that a lot of this is, starting your process at the time when your student athlete is ready to be presented the options for their next facet and phase of life. This is not a transaction. This is transitional. How many times have I used this phrase? I've used this over the last 4 years, numerous amounts of times, and I always get some form of pushback. You do not want to make the college athletic component a transaction, because if you eliminate the transition period of your student athletes, let's just call it 19 to 24 years of their lives, and you're looking at this as a transaction, sooner or later, you're going to be the transaction. Not everyone's road is covered in gold. So I want you to be aware of that. So we need to be looking at the college experience much different. And those families that are prepared in such a way to make good, decisions based on your evaluations as parents and student athletes on the proper fit for your student athlete. You cannot strictly look at a division or a level and say, that is where I want to go, and then do anything and everything to try to get there, when something or someone may be telling you that's not a good fit for you right now. You may need development, you may need growth, you may need maturity. What's trying to go on with this executive order is to try to, like, for instance, let's just take our basketball game last evening. I won't digress too far to this side of the discussion, but we had the 5 starting athletes on the University of Michigan. All 5 were transfers. The collective whole, the budget for the Michigan basketball team was $10 million. One of the starting 5 was 25 years old. My point is that your vision of college? And that is only a microcosm. It is not for the masses. It's an elite, high level, that is serving what I call the alumni base, that is thirsty and salivating for national championships. Now, we can talk about purity and impurity and all of those types of things, but let's just, again, go back to the priority, which is most athletes are not going to play at that elite national level, at least out of high school. Now, UConn had a freshman from Indiana. It does happen. They are exceptions. They are not the rule. In fact, if you want to use an AI service of your choice, Grok, Claude, all of these other ones, ChatGPT, and you put in there how many freshmen are participating in college baseball, you'll find that very few are getting significant at-bats, very few are getting significant innings, and those that are earning their way based on their results. So the better question is finding the right fit. And that really has to be, in my opinion, something that, we really need to, to be discussing. What is the right fit? How do you want to determine the right fit? And when do you want to begin your process? And that's really what I want to get to, and the next one that I want to bring up here is something that nobody else is really talking about. And that is that a lot of athletes are now really not putting enough energy into the international market. The international market is exploding. And, a lot of times we as parents, we're not thinking about the international students. Right now with baseball, there is a large movement afoot. And I've talked to NAIA coaches. I have talked to JUCO coaches. I have talked to NCAA coaches. The University of the Cumberlands, I had the pitching coach on. You can watch that on YouTube. They have 7 international students. A lot of this is coming now from Europe. In fact, if you want to, those that doubt me, because I had somebody blow my phone up trying to tell me I was a fearmongerer, University of Miami baseball today, look at their social media, X, formerly known as Twitter, signed somebody from Czechoslovakia. You thinking that baseball in Czechoslovakia is a big deal? Penn State signed someone from Japan. I could go on and on and on, but what you have to begin to understand is roster spots. If if there is a reduction in the major league draft, what I'm trying to get families to understand is the right fit might be a Division III, a Division II, an NAIA school, an opportunity for your student athlete to continue to play baseball. And if they put a resume together, that's where the portal does come into play. And that's where athletes can begin to, if they are so inclined and they want to play, particularly if you're at a JUCO and you're trying to play at a 4-year school. But if you're at an NAIA school, or if you're at an NCAA school and you go to the NAIA, or conversely, you go from NAIA to NCAA, That's where that will come into play. So you really need to understand that as a 2027 and as a 2028, there are questions that you want to begin to ask now that will help you shape the foundation for your student athlete's decision. And really, honest to goodness, this is no longer just a generic exercise where somebody can take your video, mass produce it, send it out in an email bomb, coaches scurry through it. One of the things you want to look at now is, and I will promote it because I do believe in it, the Blue Book app. The Blue Book app, if you have not seen the new Blue Book app, do yourself a favor, go in there, look at the all of the new options that your student athlete has. Is completely free, but you can post video in there, all your social media profiles, your transcripts. There is a college selection, like if you wanted to track your macros, you can now track your college experience. You put in your metrics, you put in your analytics, you put in your academic transcript profile, and you punch in what your desired major in. And out comes all of these school options. You want a filter with regard to radius from your home, plug that in. My point is not so much to strictly promote that, but to give you parents an understanding when you're talking to college coaches, you need to do your homework. You need to have the questions prepared. And one of them is going to be, about eligibility and with regard to the 5-year clock. Are you going to spend more time in light of this new rule that's passed developing from within? Is that going to be something you're going to take into more into focus? And if that's the case, what I want you to understand is, you want to have your questions ready. You want to have all of that ready to ask a college coach. Now, I also, before I go to all the questions, and I can see a whole bunch of them coming in here, I want to let parents know you want to have a firm understanding of 3 pieces of information for your student athlete. One, as a 27 and a 28, I'll get to 29s in a second. As a 27 and a 28, geographically, what is your threshold? Financially, what is your threshold? Are your transcripts in order? Meaning, do you have all of your grades? Are you aware of the eligibility criteria for the NCAA, which is available on ncaa.org. You can go to the clearinghouse. You can get all of your information on required curriculum. You can also check with regard to test scores, which schools are test optional, which schools are not. You can get all of those ducks in a row early. And then create your video when your athlete has something that you want to showcase. Meaning, as a 2028, maybe they don't have that plus tool yet, but you just want to have enough of a video presence that shows a skill set. And we'll discuss that another time. And once you have all that information, and you can go to the Blue Book and put it into your app, your profile, and you can select those filters, and it will spit out, here are schools at the Division 3, Division 2, Division 1. These schools have your major. These schools fit your threshold. Your metrics are right now on par with NCAA Division 3, NCAA Division 2, NAIA Division 2, etc. So it's good to have all of that information. Let's see. Please reemphasize the portion of bad advice for the advance or the goal from the other side just to sell a product. Okay, I'm going to get to that. Evaluation of their athlete so they know what the athlete needs to work on. If a coach calls a recruit and they do not ask about transcript in that first 3 questions, that's a major red flag. Bingo, Keith. Bingo, that's gold. Let's say the transfer rule doesn't hold up on appeal. Do you see the 5-year rule holding up? Yes. Daniel, yes. 100% yes. There's not a coach alive that does not like or want to bring that, to the forefront. All the coaches are going to finally kind of free themselves from the red shirt discussion Do I give it? Do I offer it? Do I not offer it? That should be something that 5 years to play. You have 5 seasons of eligibility. You can play for all 5. You can play for 4 of the 5, 3 of the 5, but you get 5 years from when your clock starts. So when your clock is starting, that is your 5-year period. I don't think there's ever going to be pushback on that. It's a little absurd to have athletes playing football that don't go to class, basketball players that can come from the G League or potentially the NBA at 25 and 26. I just don't think that's what college athletics should be about. And I think that most college coaches, if you ask them personally and directly, they would say they are in favor. Right now, you have 4 within a 5-year period. So just give everybody the 5 years. So if you go to JUCO, you play for 2, you still have 3 full years to play Division I. I think if anything in the executive order that I think is going to stick like Velcro, it's that 5-year plan. I've been saying that for a while. My son loves the Blue Book app, but can't tell what college coaches are on it. He can follow schools, but has no idea if they are on the app. If a coach has a profile on the app, they are on the app. If a Blue Book, and most coaches now that are now getting the updates, they are going to begin to utilize the Blue Book, much like they do other apps. And the reason for that is they too can also filter out. I'm looking for left-hand hitting corner infielders, X amount of height, X amount of weight, X amount of metrics, meaning arm strength, bat speed, etc. They can punch that in, and up comes all the athletes. So it's a two-way street. But I want to mention something that Keith has brought up, and I want to reemphasize this because I see this an awful lot on social media. And I think it's something that we have to, I really think it's important to discuss. And what I want to bring this up is, and let's just see if I can bring it to the forefront. All right. So I want to show parents this slide right here. And that is, oh, nope, I want to take this one right here. I want to remove that. I want to put that up there. All right. Recruiting timelines. And I want parents to understand, I got about 30 of these questions, so I'm paraphrasing. They're going to have college coaches now, if we have this 5 years put in place. What you as parents need to understand is no need to panic. In some cases, this works in your favor because even though it gives them less roster flexibility, what it does is once those athletes graduate, there's going to start to be a natural flow of influx and outflow. And so you have to really begin to understand the cap at the Division I level is 34. Division II is 36. You're going to ask questions at the lower levels, things like developmental squads, JV rosters, things of that nature, because if you're on a JV team, that is a year of eligibility. You must ask these questions. And when I get this next question, when should high school athletes be taking unofficial, which means the school is going to be recognizing that you're coming for a visit, and it's unofficial, meaning they're not compensating the athlete for rooms or meals or anything like that. You can take as many unofficial visits as you like. You want to do that on your time as a family. If you want to try to see the campus environment when school is in session, you want to get a feel for facilities and amenities. You really want to be more proactive if they are local or you find yourself visiting an area that you may have on your list and you want to be inquisitive and you want to go check out the facilities. Maybe you're looking to talk to a member of the coaching staff. Committing or locking in offers, sophomore year, junior year, or earlier. I am a huge believer of taking your time. Now, you will get a lot of people within the recruiting space that will tell you you want to lock in early, take your commitment, but there is nothing legally binding. You don't have that LOI, that letter of intent. So you really want to watch out for committing early because you want to make sure the coaching staff, the coaching carousel is very active at all levels of college athletics. You want to make sure the staff knows who your student athlete is, knows the potential fit. How do they see your student athlete integrating onto their locker room, the culture of the program, development of your student athlete? You really want to wait until you're getting into that rising, what I call that junior fall. And that's where you're going to be taking official visits if they're extended to you. But as far as committing, all the boxes have to be checked off. You don't want to go in there as parents shooting off the transactional questions. How much are you going to pay my student athlete? What is he going to pay? And then here's the other big topic. And I'm glad you brought this up, Jim. And I didn't want to go down this road, but I have two parents that are asking this question. On social media, you will see a lot of hype centered around guarantees that coaches are giving high school athletes with name, image, and likeness money, meaning a minimum of 100 at-bats, a minimum of 40 innings pitched. Let's call them incentives or guarantees. That is going to create a lot of tension, and you're really putting a bullseye on your student athlete. If you're one of those really elite student athletes, again, I want to really caution the masses. This is really not applicable to every student athlete, but trying to ask for guarantees with regard to your freshman or your sophomore year. How many at-bats will I get? How many innings will I get to pitch? Can I get the number 11? Do I have any guarantees that I'm going to get paid this amount of money? Can I get an increase if I produce a 300 average and 10 home runs? The people that are negotiating these are really creating a slippery slope that you as family, and more importantly, your student athlete, will ultimately have to deal with. And you don't want to make this a transaction at that junior year. If your student athlete gets to their senior year and they're getting today major league draft buzz, or there are scouts that are anticipating your student athlete being a part of the 2026, 2027 draft, okay, that's a runway you have some leeway with. But if you're not, you should be focused on where you are within the locker room, the development piece. Most coaches are going to say that you have to earn your time between the lines. You have to be a good teammate. You have to find your role, excel in your role, etc. That is really the key piece to this puzzle. And I don't think it behooves any parents to begin the process as freshmen in high school, certainly not as sophomores. If you're taking care of your business during those 2 years of development, meaning physical growth, skill set development, baseball instinct, and you're taking care of your development as you enter your junior year, you're a high school varsity participant, you're seeking higher levels of maybe Legion or college play during your senior year of high school. Those opportunities for college recruiting are going to happen. The pathways for student athletes with regard to the academic schools are taking, there's a lot of twists and turns. And as we've discussed with regard to postgraduate or prep schools and all of that, with regard to the academic component to recruiting, they have their time and their place. If you're strictly looking from an athletic perspective and you're just trying to delay the inevitable and you're looking to reclass, chances are that may not be as to your benefit. It could be to your detriment if you're not, competing at a high level athletically during that transitionary year. So I'm going to take a few more questions from parents. I don't want to bore people on this. And if you have a question, please go ahead and send that. I do want to look on my chat. Okay, I have a question. Do all recruiting services have an awareness? I can't answer that question. Everybody's opinion are going to be very different on the executive order. Some take a political stance and say that's never going to stick. It's nothing more than hype. It's nothing more than PR. Um, I can tell you the 5-year portion of that I think is going to have some stick to itiveness. And the other part is I do think there are going to be some guardrails put on the collectives as far as the amount of money that can be allocated. As far as the transfer, I don't think that's going to be able to stick, as we've seen with numerous football players and basketball players. I don't believe there's any baseball litigation currently pending. But what I want you to understand is all athletes should be treated as individuals. You cannot blanket follow the path of others that have come before you, because August 1st, there's going to be some changes. The portal, if we just use the 2026 numbers of football and basketball, we can see that right out of the gate, approximately 15 to 20% of the Division I athletes enter the portal. Some are doing that because they're advised to do so from a monetary perspective. The vast majority are doing it because they didn't get the playing time that they had hoped and now are looking to find a better fit. So again, not all roads are covered in gold or green or whatever numeration or monetary, dynamic you want to add to that. I do want to ask those parents that are concerned from a 2028 and 2029 perspective. The number one topic that you should be discussing, whether it's with your high school coaches, with your summer ball coaches, where are you from an evaluation standpoint? You need to be candid. You need to ask for what I refer to as a locker room session. Tell me where my student athlete is deficient. Tell me where he needs to improve. Someone that you trust. Now, if you're going to do that and it's not somebody that has your best interest, that could be jaded. So my point to you is get an honest, candid, full evaluation. Foot speed metrics, arm strength metrics, overall athletic movement screens, strength, skill set, baseball IQ and instinct. Find out where your athlete measures up before you chase the showcase or the camps. Do not put your student athlete in an environment where they're not ready to be evaluated. If you're going to attend a camp or a showcase from an educational perspective, fantastic, but keep your expectations extremely low. Don't try to predetermine a coach's interaction with your student athlete. Don't try to predetermine if your student athlete should be able to attend that school. If you're not doing it from an educational perspective, make sure you're getting that evaluation piece first from someone that you trust. Because you want to understand, if your athlete is running a 7.2 and you're expecting them to play a middle infield position, especially at some of the higher level schools, probably not going to happen. If their arm strength metric isn't above average from the left side of the infield or right field or as a catcher or obviously as a pitcher, you're not going to be finding yourself in a recruitable environment at the levels that your student athlete may aspire. The biggest thing is for parents to know you need to be asking questions. You need to be getting and gathering your eggs for your nest, meaning don't chase somebody else's nest. Don't chase somebody else's plan. Just because somebody else at another school has similar characteristics doesn't mean that your student athlete has the same skill set or the same metrics. You need to get an individual comprehensive evaluation. It's simple. Let me go for the last few minutes. Trevor, welcome aboard from Mississippi. Your weather, by the way, in New England today, 34 degrees and snow on April 7th. It's baseball season, and the Red Sox are playing. Maybe that's why they're 2-8. I do want to bring up something that Trevor, Trevor's a parent that checks in with me once or twice a week. He has young children. And I get a lot of parents of children, let's just say they're 13, they're 12 to 16. And we're not talking about 2030s or 2031s, but rec ball, that's an affectionate term for anything local. In all parts of the country, rec ball has different skill sets. Some may not be as good as others. Some may be really elite. Allowing your 13-year-olds to play against 14 or 15-year-olds seems to be frowned on, but I will tell you, a lot of parts of the country, that is something that occurs, and you should embrace, at least allow your student athlete to see it and participate in it. The next thing is 12 to 15. You really need to understand that those are the foundational years that your student athlete will really either develop that love and that passion and really aspire to play at the high school level and beyond, or they won't. And if they don't, it's not bad. Some student athletes just want to enjoy athletics with their friends and their peers. Great. There's a big place for that at the high school level, particularly. For those athletes that you feel are super competitive and really driven between the ages of 12 and I call it middle school in through that freshman and into the sophomore year in high school. Make sure you are making pit stops along the way, checking in. Are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? Do you want to begin to strength training? Do you want to go get an evaluation? What about meal prep? What about nutrition? All of those things, you want to check in. Are they liking it? Are they enjoying it? Is it something they're thriving with? That's the critical first stage. That's the first booster rocket that has to fire between 12 and 15, going into that sophomore year in high school. The next booster rocket is that 15 to 18-year-old time period. You cannot get to that time period and try to cram in 6 years of strength and speed and nutrition and skill set development into 2 years. It's not going to happen. There's just not enough time in the day, the week, the month, of the year. So if you plan early and you get your evaluations and you're getting them periodically and you're checking in with your strength and conditioning and your nutrition and things like that, because I promise you, those that have done that, and I have been working with parents that have done it since the age of 12. Many of them have joined me on podcasts. Now at 16, they're 185, they're 192, they're playing varsity athletics, and they are thriving. And now they can have a foundation to build on to prepare for that next stage, which is 19 to 24. But without each booster rocket, you don't have a foundation. So don't worry about high school recruiting until such time that your student athlete has clearly demonstrated that they are a varsity caliber student athlete. Do not fall for the recruiting trap. Do not fall for all of the, all of the hype. If your student athlete is a freshman, it's okay that they're playing freshman or JV. If they're a sophomore, it's okay that they're playing JV. Progression. It comes at different ages and different stages for athletes. I can tell you stories where athletes didn't play varsity until their senior year, grew 2 inches, put on 30 pounds, and suddenly they became a college caliber athlete. Folks, do not stress about executive orders. Do not stress about portal. I think 5 years, is a great thing. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for all student athletes. Gives you plenty of time to prepare, during your college, your high school years for college. 3 takeaways. No stress. Create a plan. Create your student athlete's plan. Don't follow anyone else's plan. Don't just do a lift because the football team does a lift. Do a lift for your student athlete that's going to benefit your student athlete. That evaluation piece is not a one and done process. It's a periodic time check in. Some people do it every 3 months. Some people do it every 6 months. But what you want to do is you want to gather video that shows progression. You might gather video at 13, 14, and 15, but you don't want to put it out on a profile and tag a million coaches because there's nothing they're going to do, but use it as a progression. Here's my student athlete at 14. Here they are at 15. Here they are at 16, and show them getting bigger and stronger and more skilled in foot speed development. But this day and age of all these athletes running to social media and tagging a million coaches, it just shows like a blindfold throwing darts on a dartboard. Have an awareness. And the guys that I work with, they say, have a feel, have some feel, have an understanding. Okay, my skill set and my metrics say that I am a good fit for possibly JUCO, possibly NAIA Division II, possibly JUCO Division III or Division II. Maybe my metrics have gone from here as a sophomore to here as a junior. Now my metrics fit Division II. I'm going to start looking into Division II schools in my geographical area that have my academic area of choice, and do your work. It's no different than going to a buffet. When you go to a buffet, they have all kinds of food. You can't possibly, at least most people can't possibly go there and have steak and pasta and chicken and let me have the fish and let me have the tacos. No, you fix your own plate. You have to take that mindset with regard to athletic recruiting. And you have to let, and I'm sorry to harp on this, but you have to let the academic and social culture of the campus feel right to your student athlete. Because if those two things do not feel right for your student athlete, the baseball is not going to go right. If everything else is wrong, but you're trying to play baseball, here's a news flash for everybody. Baseball is the same at every college, at every level and division across the country. The baseball it's the same, 5 ounces, 60 feet, 6 inches, rubber, point of the home plate, 90-foot bases. Most gaps are 310 down the line, 360 in the corner, in the left center, right center, 390 to 405 to center for the most part. Baseball is the same. How does the school fit? Is the campus size right? Geographically, does it fit? Academically, what are the coaches like? All of those things. Don't fall for the hype and don't fall for the fear. There's no fear. You do not have to stress. So I want to continue to have you send in your questions each week. Going to be doing different segments. We're going to be doing some, and we're going to try to kind of build around your processes to give you information that you can use. It's all free. You can watch it at your leisure. But I continue to be thankful and grateful for your questions, for your time. Please, on your way out, can you please go to the YouTube channel, engage with this video, let me know where you're watching from, leave a comment, subscribe, share the channel. If you could start to share the channel, I'd like to. We've slowed down a little bit. I know we're in season, but if you could do that, I would be deeply appreciative. This week on Coach's Corner, we're going to be talking to John Yurkow, University of Pennsylvania. Also going to be talking in the coming weeks with John Savage. Also, we're going to be talking to Stetson University. We're going to be talking to Salve Regina, getting a lot of parents that are asking me to revisit some of the Division III schools. So I've reached out to Endicott, Salve. We've had Matt Noon on from Babson. But if you have a question, please submit them to me. You can email me at walter@coachbeede.com. You can visit me at coachbeede.com. But again, I say thank you to everybody that participated tonight. I look forward to next week. Enjoy your week in baseball. And for those of us in the cold weather states, the Midwest and Northeast, I say to you, stay warm. One last question. Paul Lawrence McGovern. Hopefully many athletes. Now, I'm going to leave you on this note. I'm going to share a quick story. Paul Lawrence McGovern, affectionately known as AKA the Governor. Fitchburg State, he ran a 2-mile, a decathlon, and one other event, Gov, forgive me, and then went over and pitched a 9-inning baseball game all in the same day. You heard that right. If you want to go to the Fitchburg State, now they're called Fitchburg State University website, and you look up Hall of Fame, you'll see Paul McGovern, AKA Gov, and you look up that feat. He ran 3 events on the track team, took the track uniform off, ran over to the baseball field. There was a doubleheader and pitched 9 innings in a game, in a complete game. And he had a Wilbur Wood knuckleball, and I know that he had a knuckleball because my face still has indentations from the seams. I was the guinea pig when he was trying to learn the aforementioned knuckleball. Those are the stories I want your student athletes to have, like Gov and I have. Great baseball memories of our youth. Until next week, enjoy your baseball no matter where you are.